Claims of excessive force about Balcones Heights police surveillance video capturing teens pulled over for a traffic violation. And during the stop, the teens say the officers' actions were out of line.
This video was intended to inform and educate the public.
Welcome once again to this episode of the Junkyard News. And in today's video news story, we have an incident coming out of Balcones Heights in Texas, where two young men driving home one evening, one of which got to feel the wrath of a police officer after he said something the officer did not seem to like very much. Let's get into it. Now, I'm sure some of you out there have been on some road trips, or maybe you live in a rural area. And some of the roads that you travel upon, maybe they're one-lane roads, and there's not much room on the side. Maybe it's not a well-lit area. Well, what do you do if you find yourself being pulled over in a dark, very dangerous place with not a lot of options to pull over during a traffic stop? When drivers are pulled over by police in an unlit or unsafe area, there may be several options to ensure the driver's safety as well as the officer's safety while also complying with the law. First, you can signal your intent to comply with the officer by using your hazard lights. Drivers should turn on their hazard lights to signal to the officer that they acknowledge the request to pull over. Yes, the driver should reduce their speed to show that they are not attempting to flee. Drivers may choose to continue driving at a very slow pace until they reach a well-lit, populated area. It's important to continue signaling your intent to comply by keeping hazard lights on and driving at a reduced speed. Sometimes people in this situation tend to call police themselves on their phone while driving, like 911, to inform dispatch that they are being pulled over, but explain their concerns about the situation and where they're at. The dispatcher can relay this information to an officer. When the driver finds a slightly safer spot, like under a street light or near a store, they can stop there. Once stopped, they should keep their hands visible, of course, on the steering wheel. Once the vehicle is stopped, it is important to follow the officer's instructions very carefully. Keeping your hands visible, avoid sudden movements that may put an officer in fear for his life, and provide the necessary documents that they ask for. But what do you do if an officer doesn't want you to find a safer location? He doesn't care how dangerous of an area it is to pull over. What if the officer demands that you stop immediately, even though you are concerned about the safety of the location? It is important to handle the situation carefully to ensure your safety while also complying with the law. If you do find yourself in a similar situation, it might be prudent to pull over even if you feel it's unsafe and stop if the officer seems to be getting aggressive in his driving. Maybe he even used his PA system in the car to tell you, stop the car now. In that case, you better comply, because you never know when the next officer out there is looking for that paid vacation, or just an excuse to work off some much needed stress. And that's the situation two young men found themselves in Texas. You see, their parents had told them, if you're ever pulled over and you don't think it's a safe location, turn on your hazard lights, slow down, don't make it look like you're trying to flee the officer, just find a safe spot to pull over and do it. Now, these two young men were driving, and they did notice a squad car pass them. And like most people when they see a cop, they keep an eye on him. And they noticed that this officer went down the road and made an aggressive U-turn heading in their direction. And I'm sure you out there watching can understand the chill that just may run through your spine when you see something like that transpire. I mean, the first thing I think of is, oh great, what did I do now? Why is he coming after me? To these young men, remembering what their parents told them and understanding that the area that they were driving in, to them, did not seem very safe, drove a little farther down the road so they could pull into their driveway. But since they did not pull over right away, the officer, I guess, felt disrespected, felt like they were attempting to flee. Even though they slowed down, even though they turned on their hazard lights, the officer treated them like they were eluding him, fleeing and eluding. Unbeknownst to the officer, their home, had surveillance video. Once the vehicle was stopped in the driveway, they complied with the officer's directions. One at a time, they got out of the car, put their hands up, walked back behind the car to the street, and got down on their stomachs. It's been said by some news agencies out there that one of the young men, while he was complying, made a statement to the officer that the officer didn't seem to like. And when the officer came up to him to put him in handcuffs, this officer showed him how far his disrespect was going to go in the eyes of the cop. He gave him a little blue line justice. Now the officer claims that while he was trying to handcuff this young man, he felt this young man's hand hit his leg while the cop's straddling him. So you have his arm and you're pulling it behind his back. He's not resisting, and his fingers brush up against your leg, and you use that as an excuse to pummel the kid. Unbeknownst to the officer, this home had video surveillance, and his actions were caught on the home surveillance video. Upon reviewing body cam video, the police chief claims that the officers claim that the young man reached for his leg. Well, we know what that means. He reached for my gun. That claim was not supported on the officer's body camera video. So the cop got caught in a lie. Now the investigation's still going. It's underway. But this just goes to show you, when you mouth off to a police officer, instead of letting it bounce off them, some cops out there want to issue you a little blue line justice. Investigation's still going. We're going to have to wait to see what the end result is. Do you think this officer is going to get a pass by his department? Do you think he's going to get a paid vacation for the force used and giving this young man a concussion? Comment what you think below. Thank you again for watching this video by The Junkyard News. Be careful, people, or we could be highlighting a video with you in the next one.
We were on Fredericksburg at a stop sign, and a cop, I turned right, and that's when I seen that cop make a fat U-turn. But I see him excessively speeding to me, so I know he's about to light me up.
Zimmerly says he followed advice his mom had given him in the past to put on his hazard lights and drive to a safe location before pulling over. So he drove less than a mile home.
We get to my house, I pull in. I'm not speeding at all.
Balcones Heights Police Chief John Jahanara told me over the phone his officer claimed the driver was evading him. The officer then draws out his weapon. The chief also added dash camera video did confirm the hazard lights were on. Zimmerly says the teens complied with the officer as he asked them to get out of the vehicle with their arms up and then get on the ground. They admit they started to talk back to the officer. At this moment, they claim the officer was using excessive force.
Yeah, I didn't know what he was doing. I just felt punches like force to my face and my head.
The police chief says his officer told him Ramirez had reached for his leg, so that's what prompted his use of force. But the chief added the body camera video didn't capture a leg grab. Ramirez says it didn't happen. All while this was going on, Zimmerly's father, who was outside the home, was also placed in handcuffs.
No way. Wait.
Started to de-escalate. Eventually, they were all let out of their handcuffs, and Zimmerly was ticketed for driving without insurance.
The police chief told you there are body camera videos, dash camera videos. Is he going to release those?
Well, I filed an open records request with the police department. He tells me that once the internal investigation is over, he'll release those videos. Now, keep in mind, the police chief and a lieutenant are leading this internal investigation.
Videos uploaded by The Junkyard News are helped in part by viewers just like you. You can show your support for this channel by clicking the thumbs up, sharing our videos, or hitting that all-important support button on our channel page. Don't want to miss a video or a story? Make sure to check us out and like us on Facebook at The Junkyard News.